To Your Success. To Your Success is the #1 gifting service for home services companies. Because you're a different contractor, you care about customers and want to express appreciation to build strong customer relationships. But you need a process that's effortless for you while feeling relational to your customers. There is an answer. To Your Success gives you the ability to automate a handcrafted thank you gift as soon as you complete a job. Visit toyoursuccess.com to learn more or schedule a live demo and receive a sample cookie gift. Delight your customers, build relationships, and cultivate loyalty. Visit toyoursuccess.com.
Welcome to the Successful Contractor, powered by Success Group International, a show for residential contractors about residential contractors. We chronicle business journeys, share insights, and celebrate successes in this wonderful industry. I'm your host, Bob Houchin. Hello there, SGI family and other contractor friends. I'm so thankful you're here. As a reminder, all episodes of the Successful Contractor Show are available on YouTube, as well as your podcast player of choice. Today's show is a great discussion I had with husband-wife duo James Brown and Tonya Alexander-Brown, owners of Air Care Heating and Cooling in Charlotte, North Carolina. These two have a great story and an incredibly interesting one. Best of all, it's a success story. Air Care has grown from $1.1 million to $2.7 million over the last 2 years, and much of it has been done so as a result of completing 2 acquisitions. And I'm not just talking about buying a customer list. James and Tonya merged their company with 2 others. Also of note, James and Tonya built their business in the early days utilizing home warranties, provided them with some immediate calls and a quick customer base. But they'll go in depth about how they turned that warranty business into a retail business. Highly interesting. James and Tonya are just a neat couple. As you'll hear, they've made so many changes, especially over the last couple of years. Currently, they're still settling into a brand new office, and they have a vision for growing the company, to $10 million or more, hopefully sooner rather than later. And I believe they can. They're bright, calculated, hardworking people who know how to make things happen. So with that being said, let's hear the rest of the story from the couple themselves. Here's James Brown, Tonya Alexander-Brown, owners of Air Care Heating and Cooling in Charlotte, North Carolina. I hope you enjoy it and take away a nugget or two. James and Tonya, it's so good to see you. Thank you so much for making time for us to be on the show today. If you would, just share with everyone your names, your company name, and where you guys are located at.
Sure. Tonya Alexander-Brown and James Brown with Air Care Heating and Cooling. And we're located in the Charlotte, North Carolina market.
Very good. Very good. We're talking today because business has been very good, just as the Charlotte area seems to be exploding. You guys are exploding. Kind of share with everyone how the last couple of years has been in terms of revenue and I'm assuming good, strong profitability.
Yeah, it's got its up and downs. It's got its problems as with anybody does, but
Sure.
We've done a couple acquisitions in the last couple of years, and that's what's really kind of stemmed a lot of our growth. But for example, in 2019 we were at 1.1, in 2020 we're at 1.9, and we should be doing 2.7 this year. So it's obviously those are like night and day changes. So yeah, lots been going on.
Huge changes, and a big reason why we want to talk, because acquisition is such a popular topic amongst the group, and you guys are living it. So it'll be good to get your insight into the hurdles and the good stuff and some of the stuff you've had to sort out along the way. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of operational things, I always love learning people's stories. I think you can learn as much from that as you can talking day-to-day business. So let's talk about how we get into this industry. I'm James, I'm guessing you were the one, or Tonya, who got into HVAC?
Both of us.
Yeah, we actually were we were at another company together.
Really?
Ages ago.
That's how we met.
So we kind of both independently got into the field, and then, we had gotten that experience at this other company, and James got his license, and we just thought, wow, this is a good opportunity, and we took it.
That's interesting. Go ahead, James.
Sorry, yeah, that was in 2007. Yeah, 2007.
Okay.
Her background is a lot of the office CSR dispatch for a good 6-7 years, and I did a lot of maintenance service manager. That was our experience there. So for about 6 years there. So yeah, that's where we met, and we said we can do this, and we did.
That's interesting. I've done this a long time. I've never heard people meeting in the industry or in the same company, but I got to check that box. That's great. That's interesting. So what decided that you guys were like, hey, we can do this on our own? What kind of pushed you into that decision?
Well, James is very much a numbers guy. So initially, whenever we were contemplating making a move to doing something independently from the company that we were at, James just kind of sat down and wrote out all the numbers. This is what we could do if X, Y, and Z, right? And so he was very confident in his abilities. And while, I was a little hesitant because I'm the one who's very cautionary when it comes to this stuff.
Sure.
James is very much just kind of, let's go. And he's like, he's like jumping off a cliff, building his parachute on the way down, where I'd like to know where the parachute's at, how to open it, what it's constructed of before making the jump. So we kind of we have a good checks and balances when it comes to that. But I kind of believed in his belief in himself, and that kind of catapulted into this wild and crazy entrepreneurial world that we're in.
Yeah. Technician and office person knowing that, oh yeah, we can run a business, no problem. So
right, it's just easy, right? That's just all you gotta do.
That easy.
That's funny. Now, what kind of business was it? Was it residential service and replacement, right? Or was it in the current model you guys are running? Okay,
so that's good. Everything that we were used to is what we started to do. So it was all residential maintenance, repair, and replacement. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you said you met in 2007?
No, that's when we started.
Yeah, that's when you started your company. Okay. So were you married then before jumping into it? No. Okay.
Dating at the time. So a big draw in the hat is we met there, dating, start our company, and actually after all of that still get married. So that's pretty that's an accomplishment.
I was going to say it's going to work, because if you were dating and you're still decided to get married after starting a new business, it must be love. So I'll say that. So well, let's talk about it. Now I've made the mistake of forgetting to check when you met up with SGI, but it's in the last 5 years, something like that, 4 or 5 years.
I think we guessed around 2012, and somebody
2012.
But I want to say it was around 2012.
Yeah, so I think spring will be our 10 year. 10 year.
Okay. Wow, that's great. So starting your own business in 2007, that's kind of an interesting time given how the economy looked. I'm assuming, was that a big challenge initially in kind of dealing with that?
Because for us, we were just getting started in the industry, so we didn't really see probably the ups and downs as what I would assume a lot of companies did who had been well established, because our revenue wasn't extremely high. We were very
it was just us.
Yeah, it was just the two of us. Expenses were really low, and the income we could make that work no matter what it was, right? So I don't really think had the misfortune or unfortunate.
We didn't know enough to be scared of the economy, so it really wasn't an issue.
Oh, that's good.
Kind of the best way.
Sure. I always love finding out how brand new businesses with no customer base start. So was it just talking to friends and family? Were you knocking on doors, or how did you keep the lights on there in those early days?
Well, I think we did what a lot of companies do. We went to a few home warranty companies, and we were vendors for home warranty companies there for a while. And then, of course, home warranties are great for what they are, but we really felt like after a few years of we've always done club memberships, even with the home warranties. So after a few years of building that up, we kind of really felt like, unfortunately, the home warranty company becomes your customer at that point, not really the homeowner. Right. So we kind of felt like we could best serve the homeowners by kind of transitioning over into only doing the retail side of it.
Sure.
Bypassing the home warranty.
Yeah. And to kind of give a perspective of, I guess, how that first 5 years worked, we built very slow, and very steady. And we, it was, like I said, it was just us for 5 years, except for, hey, so-and-so might be able to help us this day. That kind of thing. We had no other full-time employees the whole time. So
wow.
But day one when we went into business, we had 5 calls on the board from home warranty. So that's what got us indoors.
Got it.
So our first year was probably 90% home warranty, 10% and then over the next 5 years was 80-20, 50-50, 20-80. And then right around that 5th year, we were pretty much, we're doing this all just retail only. And then that is the business we wanted to grow on. Like I said,
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know any better, so we just did the best with what we knew.
Well, sure.
And that is to do the work, do the job, and double down on that. So we didn't know how to run a business, add people, scale, nothing like that. So, but right about that time where we had been doing it, and when we knew we were all retail, is we knew, okay, if we're growing, this is what we want to grow on. We didn't want to grow with home warranty.
Right.
Our biggest
Well, you're the
fear,
numbers guy. You saw that, right? You saw the margins.
yes. Our biggest fear was having 3-4 employees,
right.
10, and the home warranty company saying no more calls.
Right.
And then we didn't have that stability. So once we knew the retail side was growing, it supported adding team members. You know, we've added full-time employees ever since. So
that's great. Talk about the transition though from that to retail, from home warranty to retail. Was it just selling maintenance agreements once their home warranty is up after a year? Is that pretty much the process you guys used?
Not waiting for that.
We don't wait on that. We, even as the home warranty, as we went out there, we from day one, club memberships. I mean, obviously we called it something different. I don't remember what we called it back then, but those maintenance plans, consistently doing that. We knew from the second we started that was going to be a key component. Because, well, I guess some people would know the home warranties, you know, they aren't going to cover things if they breaks due to lack of maintenance. So that was kind of our way in with a lot of those homeowners. So
everybody was going to have them forever. So
right. That's interesting. Did you finally officially close that? I'm assuming. That's home warranty side. Yeah. That's good. That's it. You get
like, hey, we don't want any more calls from you because we have our own.
Okay. That's very good.
Where we wanted to get to.
Okay, interesting. All right, talk about the decision to join SGI, where the business was at that point. You know, what kind of instigated, all right, I think we need maybe it'd be good to get an outside sounding board on how to, you know, run this business a certain way. What was the process behind that?
Well, what was really interesting is that the company that James and I were a part of before, they were already transitioning into, I guess, what you guys would call the direct energy franchise as it is now. I don't remember if that's what it was initially, but they were transitioning into that. So we were already familiar with the processes and procedures.
They were originally
I don't remember what it's called then. So
it was okay.
The franchise part of it. And so we already knew about all that. But then when we did start transitioning away from the home warranty, James is like, let's just go check out the Profit Day, which is what we ended up doing. Where was that Profit Day?
Raleigh.
It was in Raleigh. That's right.
Okay.
So we ended up going to the Profit Day and talking to
Patrick, right?
That's right. And we had actually just been informed that another local company had dropped out at that particular point. So our area was kind of open.
Okay.
So I just jumped right on that. And
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
So was it? Yeah.
How that all worked out.
That is funny. So was it an airtime company that what they bought a 1 hour and they were making conversion into 1 hour, or were they already a 1 hour?
Franchise. So we were with them through that transition to that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's what we were familiar with. So we spent 5 years going, you know, we can do it our way, and we can do it our way, and we can do it our way. And for the first years, we did transition away from home warranty to retail. But it was 5 years of figuring it out, making mistakes, and honestly, we were right at that, you know, monetarily, we were right at that $300,000 range for 5 years.
Yeah.
Now it was better of where it was coming, you know, but give or take around 250 to 350, right?
Yeah.
So when we joined the Profit Day, or when we went to the Profit Day, we weren't profitable. Like, we weren't making money. We were doing a job. Yeah. So it wasn't like money in the bank and let's, you know, now's the time and pull the trigger. No, we were tired. We were sick of doing the same thing over and over again.
Sure.
When we went back to it, it was what we were hoping for, and then committed to it. And we were going to, you know, build on this. We needed to build with a structure, a know-how, a go-to. Like, we've got to tap into something else to do it because we don't know.
Right. It's a lot. I mean, running a business by yourselves in the office, everything on you, in the field, everything on you. It's a lot to figure out. I'm sure after 5 years, you're like, okay, we got to grow out of this and starting to get a little bit better. Properly. For sure. Sure. So talk about then, okay, you go to Profit Day. I'm assuming you go to EP. I always get my timeline gets mixed up when we went from going to Expo as a new member or EP as a new member. So you went to EP, right?
Yeah,
we
it was like
did.
3 weeks there, right? I mean, it wasn't a lot of time.
There wasn't a
quick.
lot of time. I remember we went from
Yeah.
Profit Day, and then I remember Louisiana was
New
the,
Orleans.
yeah,
Yeah, we drove to it.
was the EP.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice
We didn't
short
have money to
drive.
fly.
Yeah, no, I respect that. Sure.
We didn't have the money to stay in the hotel where the Profit Day was. We stayed outside of town and drove to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like it was tight, you know, when
Sure.
we say it was tight. So we knew that we needed something better.
Right.
We joined up in, I think, of February, and that March we went right to EP at New Orleans and Expo.
We made it a
wow.
fact check.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, our memories.
Yeah,
may-
right in there. Yeah,
That's all right. Yeah.
the timeline.
give or take
Yeah,
a week or a month.
No, that's all right. It probably feels like forever ago, considering all that's happened since then, I bet. All right, so you go to EP, which was then part of an expo. You leave. I'm sure like mine's kind of a little swollen, trying to figure out what to do. What did you do next? Were there 2 or 3 things, changes to the business you knew? Hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z.
So the biggest thing we did was rebrand.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was huge. Our name was horrible. So we rebranded.
Well, wait a minute. What was your name?
It was J.E. Brown's Mechanical Group, because it was my initials, my name, and we didn't know how to run a business. We're like, we just know we can't have anybody else's name,
Sure.
and nobody will have that. So we rolled with it for 5 years.
Sure. Yeah.
But what we knew after, of course, EP was you can't have a name and then people ask you what you do. So we didn't know, it wasn't great. And people were remembering me as James Brown anyway. So we just stuck with that, and we rebranded to James Brown Air Conditioning and Heating.
Right.
And we were that way for a long time.
Sure.
But that the first thing we did was rebrand and commit to doing that.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was obviously straightforward pricing. Those were the biggest things for us.
Those were the biggest things. Now let's talk about how did the business grow. You were doing about 300,000. You know, when you mentioned the last handful of years, it's grown considerably, but you were at 1.1. So let's connect the dots from 300,000 to 1.1. What got you to that $1 million? Was it? I'm assuming you had to put yourself in a sales role at some point, and then hire people to manage the technician and install side of things.
Yes, all that. I was the main field revenue generator, where she handled everything in the office, and that's our roles going in, and that's what, and still to today, we know who's the go-to for what. There's not an argument over a lot of things. I know what I'm good at, she knows what she's good at, and we both know that with each other. So we went from 300 to about 500,000, just with better processes, procedures, and like I said, at this point, we're all retail. So we're growing our retail side. And no advertising, because we didn't know how to do it. You know, we were just word of mouth, slowly growing. From about 2013, I think, is when we were doing 500. And then I think we got to about 2016 where we were doing right at $1 million.
Okay.
And that was, then we had an extra person, 2 or 3 people, 4 people. We were just adding them as we needed them and as we could. But, even all the way up to that, and we did 1 to 1.1 for about 3 years straight, from 16 to 19. Okay. But we knew we were just kind of all over that, and for us, I was still 90% of the revenue. So the equipment sales, the replacement sales, and still, of course, running calls in a truck, just the selling tech, I guess, is the best way to say it. And then maintenance guy and another maintenance guy, but they were just kind of an install crew when we needed them to help me, or however it worked out with 2 or 3 or 4 people. We knew after doing that 3 or 4 years, again, it's just kind of knowing what you're good at and what you're not. We can get to that point, just me being good in a truck, but that was not scalable. So for years, I had been looking at, well, how do you grow? And growing by, buying business, instead of building business. And the building business wasn't working like we wanted it to. So I've been studying for years, just on anything I can just grab on. What does an acquisition look like? How do you buy revenue? And in 2019, we did our first deal and closed. This was even more fun.
We started at the end of 2019 with the deal, and then we closed everything with that acquisition on March 20th or 23rd
Of 2020.
of 2020,
Okay.
right
Oh.
as right as COVID hit. So it was like,
Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
welcome to the team, and let's talk about PPE. Let's talk about masks. Let's talk about what we're doing and how we're gonna, try to.
The first
make
meeting
this
was
work.
literally both of that. Who we
Yeah.
are, this is what we did, and we have to talk about COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that was our. Yeah.
Well,
so, but what, I don't know if you want me to go ahead on that. But
what was that? I missed that.
what that looked like is we were doing 1.1 at the time with 6 people. That's including us. Okay.
Right.
For that company that we acquired was doing right at 8 or 850.
Okay.
That
was
and they had a team of 4. And they had a team of 4.
Yeah.
But what it did for us was the old owner, all he wanted was he just wanted to sit at a table with a customer and sell. So what worked for us was it was pretty symmetrical between our business and his. So there wasn't a whole lot of change or, bringing up speed. A lot more of the same.
He was an airtime member, right? So he had a lot of.
No.
That was not the airtime member. Okay.
No, it was not an airtime member. But what we did was we're like, this works out, especially for the first time and never having done this before.
Yeah.
That company, and all of a sudden we had a team of 10 and a comfort advisor.
Yeah.
So a month or two maybe later, we had 1 or 2 other people, and then a lot of people talk about around that mark where you get out of a truck. Okay.
Yeah.
So we did that kind of with a signature.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference of how we did it compared to other people. So I immediately was like, okay, there's a team. I need to back up and
Focus
see
on
how they're doing it.
Yeah.
And then that was the first time where we can both be on the business, not in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So let's talk about that a little bit. What was it like being in the office, Tonya? What was it like having him in the office? How did you guys decide who would manage what duties? I mean, that's a lot to unpack in a really short period of time.
Teach me what a browser is.
Yeah, well, teaching him basic computer skills was definitely
Right.
something that we continue to work with that, by the way.
That's all right.
But no, I actually like having him in the office, because in those days where I'm like, just want to run into a wall, I just run to him and I'm like, okay, we need to problem solve, right? So it's easier for us to do that in the same office. But I mean, obviously it has its challenges and struggles, because you see each other in the office all day long, and then you go home and you see each other there all day. So it can be a little monotonous sometimes, but we really get along very well.
Yeah.
So that really isn't much of a problem for us, other than trying to separate a lot of the work home stuff. Gets a little fuzzy for us, because we're so passionate about what we do that it's hard to go home and not talk about work. But
I'm not yelling at you. I'm discussing problems,
Yeah, but as far as the division of labor, like he's always been much better at the sales, the marketing. He knows about that stuff much more than I do. Even though the computer stuff he doesn't know, he knows where he wants to go with the marketing information. So that was always really easy. And then of course I, was handling the phone calls, and we had acquired an employee or 2 from their office staff too. So we were able to kind of fold those people in and try to make it work. And so now it's great. We have me, and then I have a team of 4 up front that I have 1 person that's kind of managing those other 3.
But that's post another acquisition.
Well, yeah, that's true.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting kind of watching the things happen in the office, and making that delegation has been a fun process.
Ultimately, and what that did for us was closing on that company in March of 2020. Mentally what it did for us is we didn't have time to worry about COVID. We had to go on offense.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just like, that's just the thing we had to navigate. So SGI was awesome with that, because initially you're like, are we even allowed to work? And we didn't know. Everybody had those questions.
Right.
So what they did behind the scenes and getting everybody the information as real time as possible, that was pretty phenomenal. And I've got to give them a mention for that, because that was super important for us. That was stressful.
Absolutely.
That was stressful.
Yes,
but ultimately what it did was, with about a team of 10 or 11, we ended up doing around 1.9.
Wow, that's great.
So that year and 9 months of that was with the added company too.
Mhm.
So that just helped us kind of burst that little bubble, of okay, other things are possible.
Yeah, there's that glass ceiling that they always kind of talk about around $1 million, and we were having a really hard time breaking through that.
Sure.
And that's why we were looking at the initial acquisition, because we thought, well, this is a great way for us to do it. And we really hadn't explored a lot of options in terms of marketing, and making that a part of our marketing budget was something that we just committed to.
Right. Well, I guess, you guys were probably profitable leading up, so you'd save some money to be able to acquire this other business, right? So how did just, and we can share as much as you want or as little as you want, but in terms of, because members want to know, because they're interested in how do I acquire someone? What does that look like? So let's talk about the process. First things first, how did you earmark this other business? And it was called Air Care, right? So that was the other business, Air Care, correct?
Yeah,
So
that's exactly
how did you
right.
identify?
The important information is realizing that there are a million ways to go from 1 to 2, and growing a business.
Yeah.
First off was having enough self-awareness to realize what you were good at and what you weren't.
Yeah.
And you were struggling to do it, I guess you can say, organically, where a lot of other companies have had success. And that could be with the way their team is structured or who has what pros and cons and abilities, right? But I was really having trouble with that, going from there to there. So that's why that route worked better for us. But there's also, when you're acquiring, there's ways to do that. Anywhere from sending out letters, cold calling home or business owners and saying, hey, who's interested? And there's a lot of ways to do that. And the way we ended up doing it was, because also this is new to us. We've never done this. And, we were just committed to learning from experience and as much information as we can get, even from watching the videos of Lon from years ago. SGI, and then anything else I can find and gather on YouTube, right? Anything I can find. But we ended up working with a broker that had a business deal, and we're like, okay, well, what does this look like? So, and it was just so, I guess you can say, seamless. It was about as easy of a deal as possible because it was so similar to what we were already doing.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up being the guy that was just, he was done. He was in business for like 10 years. And I think mentally he was just not wanting to run the business. Right. But it was a business deal, and we did use some SBA lending and put some money down. So it wasn't like this magic wad of cash. So we still wanted enough to say, okay, if I'm going into debt over this, right, it has to be a business to be able to handle the cash flow.
Right.
Service. So, and there has to be something left after that. So there was a lot of number crunching. There was a lot of number crunching to say, okay, what are they doing? What opportunities do they have? What would we do with them? And how much of an obligation is that for us to be able to pay compared to what we can bring in with it? So we had to be able to cover it.
Yeah. So was it a multiple of profit that ultimately determined what the price you paid on it, or were they not profitable and it was mostly
at that level? It is a multiple of profit, but honestly, at that, when you're, from my understanding, okay, when you're down around $1 million company, $1.5 million company, you're going to use at that time, and it may be close or similar now, but 2.5 multiplier, 2.6, 2.7, because it. Yeah, so it's around that kind of multiplier.
Yeah, sure, for sure. All right. Okay. All right. So you make the acquisition. We have the sit down. This is who we are. We're in charge of the business now. You don't even know me. Oh, and there's COVID, by the way, whatever that is.
And we're changing our name.
Right. Right. But it was Air Care, right? So the business you bought was Air Care. So that was, at least it made it easier, that transition, right? So
it did. It really did. It really helped. It helped them acclimate, because obviously, having a meeting that morning saying, hey, we're the new owners, is the whole team. So but when we brought them over to introduce our existing team is when we had to let our team know what we did, and navigating that whole thing was really fun. Honestly, it's a lot of details, but meeting with each person, telling them exactly what to expect, asking them what's important to them, what kind of concerns they have. It was kind of cool.
And it happened very quickly.
It did.
it rolled in very quickly with the type of businesses that we were already running, and it was a very
Good time of year to do it too.
it was, in retrospect, it happened very, very
Beginning of the year.
Spring and
The
summer.
transition
So,
was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I would think, yeah.
and we were busy enough for us to just get to work.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So just so I understand, so the audience understands. So it was the two of you in the office plus another young lady answering the phones, correct? And then what was we had the former owner was selling for you, correct? And then we had what, like an install team and a couple of maintenance techs, or what does the field look at that point?
And four
No, what
or
came?
five.
Well, I mean, okay, what we had and what we acquired. Okay, we had 6 people, which consisted of an install crew of 2, me and Tonya. I think another technician and another person in the office.
Okay.
That's interesting.
That was the 6 we had. What they brought was the owner turned comfort advisor.
Yeah.
Another service tech they had turned into our service manager, and still today.
Okay.
Another technician that came over at the time too, and then somebody else in the office to help.
Okay.
So
all right.
Team of 10. And by the end of summer, we had hired another 2 installers, and I'd say 2 more techs, and I think we ended up having 14 people at the end of the year.
Okay. All right. So how many service technicians do you have? Service maintenance?
At that time or now?
Currently, let's talk about real time
Currently,
real quick.
we have 7 technicians on an on-call rotation.
Okay.
3 installers that are installers full time.
Okay.
Of the 3 installers, so of the other technicians, I have 2 of them that can help with install. So they are kind of running both duties before we hire full-time installers.
Right.
And then we have a full-time comfort advisor, a full-time service manager that is not running in the on-call right now. He's not.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then me, Tonya, and 4 others in the office.
Okay. Wow, that exploded a bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. I am intrigued because I just have a feeling other members that are watching or listening are asking. You take an owner, that you bought the business from, and I just want to sell and talk, and that's great because I get it. Maybe they're people, but now you have maybe a certain process or sales system, and maybe you have to increase prices, or this is what we need to get the margins right because we just bought this thing. We need to make it happen. Was he willing to change, or did that not last very long?
For him, it was kind of more the same. Let's just talk about prices. He was real easy to work with, honestly. He really was.
Okay.
And he was.
That's good.
That was his natural state. Like that was a good position for him. It just was. But he was really only with us. It seems like 5 years, but he was only with us from that March to by the end of October. He wanted to go do something else.
Okay. All right.
So we only had him 6 months or 7 months. It felt like a long time, but we only had him 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
So that was going into winter for us. I didn't have another comfort advisor then. No, I just went kind of back in. Plus, at that time, we had a selling tech that did a little bit, but very little, like learning too. But I went back to doing almost all the sales, all the estimates.
Okay. And how long did?
4
or 5 months.
I hired another comfort advisor in the spring. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little training. Again, so here you are, you're merging 2 businesses together. You have a certain way. I'm guessing you were doing all the training with your previous, when it was just you guys, right? Before you made the acquisition. Now all of a sudden, hey guys, we do this thing called training and we try to do it once a week. And so like, how did they respond to that? Was there a lot of turnover right away? Or did people really like, okay, let's give it a shot? There was growth mindset with most of them?
Not a lot of turnover. It's always been very straightforward, even from our first person that we ever hired, like, hey, we're going to train. We were always plugged into Learning Alliance and training with SGI since we were members. So we didn't wait until we had a team of 10 to start doing that. Right. I would go by myself when it was just me and Tonya. Like I would go out of town and I would go to the service essentials. I would go to the comfort advisor and selling tech trainings. And I've probably been at least every year since, right?
That's great. That's great.
But it's always been a thing that we've done. When we're slower, we're training. That's, if we're not in a game, we're preparing for one. So that's how I always looked at it. It was always a part of what we did. Very, very important. And everybody kind of knew that at all times. but it wasn't a big turnoff for a lot of people. So everybody
That's
was like
great.
on board. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Everybody was.
And I think that people probably take for granted, the opportunities that you guys have for the training, because I don't think they realize how, not every company, but some companies just don't have, haven't learned the value of that yet, right? So they're not doing the training. And so I think that when you have that opportunity, they're like, oh, yeah, I really have the opportunity to work on soft skills, or yeah, I really needed to learn how to, do whatever out in the field. And I think that oftentimes gets overlooked with companies when they just haven't found that value yet in the training. So I think it offered them a lot of good opportunities. And even as we continue to bring people on, they're like, yeah, nobody's ever done this before. Nobody's ever trained before, even now. So it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, company-wise, sorry, we have we've always had at least one weekly meeting. Yeah, that's so great. And like for example, now we have what we do now is one weekly tech meeting Tuesday mornings, installation meetings Thursday mornings, and then comfort advisor or anybody that's selling has their own meeting right after the install meeting.
Okay, I like it.
One employee a week on an individual basis. We don't really have that set in stone, but we try to make that a priority. Yeah, trying to make that a priority on one-on-one at least, once every few weeks whenever they fit in the rotation.
And bringing our team to Learning Alliance, which we're a part of LA Lab too. So we're part of the LA On Demand and all that. But yeah, we're bringing our team out of town.
That's great.
So whatever training is necessary, and the online courses too.
Support for this podcast comes from Home Depot Pro. With an inventory of more than 100,000 products, the Home Depot Pro's product selection includes both the name brands you seek and the exclusive brands you trust. For more information, go to www.ebarnett.com.
Welcome back to the show. I'm talking with James Brown and Tonya Alexander-Brown, owners of Air Care Heating and Cooling in Charlotte, North Carolina. So far, we've learned how James and Tonya started their business. They shared how home warranties helped them launch and how they transitioned away from them. And they've shared the details of their first acquisition. In the second half of the conversation, we'll talk about how they've continued to shape and identify their company culture. We'll continue to talk about how they utilize one-on-ones to best understand their team and their motivations. We discuss their second acquisition and the new challenges and opportunities it brought. We talk some marketing, and we talk about a whole bunch more. So let's jump back into my conversation with James Brown and Tonya Alexander-Brown, owners of Air Care Heating and Cooling. Let's talk about the one-on-ones. I think that's something that we started talking about a couple years ago. It's slowly, gaining hold amongst members, because it's like, oh wow, we're going to talk one-on-one. Like, we're not just training you, go sell something, right? So what are your one-on-ones look like? What's the conversation typically like? What questions do you ask, just for people trying to learn how to do that?
Sure, it's kind of like a mini performance review, but you're really kind of touching base with them to make sure that they don't need anything, like to make sure that we've provided everything that we can for them to be successful, right? What do you need that we're not giving you? What are we giving you that you're having trouble using, right? And so, what are you seeing is successful? What are you seeing is not successful? Because everybody's personalities are so different, it's really hard to, have that training where one size fits all. So just trying to, okay, so we learned about this a couple of weeks ago. So what are you still struggling with, or what have you found really successful with what we've been doing? And then obviously, just touching base, like personal goals, professional goals. How can we help you reach those? So
go above and beyond that with like, hey, if we had, if we were 5 times the size, what would you want to do in this organization? That curveball of good question. Do you, what do you want to do 4 years from now? Because if you are in one position and you want to be try a different one, I want that on our radar, so we're making our decisions towards it. As a team. So, I've got technicians that want to learn how to sell, and that's great. We're discussing it. So we want to see these things first, and then things we're going to do, and then we're going to ask of you before you get a green light. But it's a plan now, as opposed to them waiting for us to draw a name out of a hat. Having those ones-on-ones really helps us fine-tune our next decision-making skills so everybody wins, right? So I don't want to have a plan for somebody that they have a different plan for themselves. That doesn't help.
That's awesome.
Let's get on the same page.
Yeah, that's great. Do you find out things that you're shocked by? Like, I didn't realize you had that going on in your personal life. And that maybe explains why you had a rough week, or I had no idea you wanted to get into sales or you wanted to do extra. I mean, how much of that stuff has been discovered in doing these?
A lot of that stuff is
Yeah.
usually just because we oftentimes are, I mean, I know for us specifically, we are just being busy, right? Sometimes we like to think we're more productive than we are, but sometimes we're just busy trying to, tread water, right? And we forget that one-on-one is really where those relationships are made.
Right.
And
Personal decisions affect your business decisions, honestly,
they do.
especially when you're aware of them.
Mhm.
So instead of being sidetracked by a lot of things, I mean, stuff happens to everybody, but if you can get to where somebody may be dealing with something or you not knowing there's an issue, well, you can course correct quicker. You can
Right.
possibly help them quicker, structure different. Hey, this guy doesn't need to have that extra call a day, or it would mean a lot to this person if he had one less call a day.
Yeah.
And creative with our service technician's schedule for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because
Right.
what they were wanting to work and what we thought was the norm was not the norm anymore. So we just totally
Mhm.
revamped it, and
Isn't that
changed all
something?
sorts of things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's amazing. How is that unified everyone as a team? How has that helped create, that buzzword culture that we like to use a lot? Has it helped really stimulate that?
We're working towards it,
Mhm.
of being that perfect culture. But as long as we're progressing, we feel
Yeah.
as like we're making headway. But it never,
Right.
we still see so much growth based on the examples we get at the other companies in SGI.
Mm-hmm.
Like CME and Brandon and John Chacomey and Josh with Rescue Air and all these people that we've looked up to a lot and got a lot of
Sure.
information from, help us along the
Sure.
way. But knowing that we're better now than we were 6 months ago. Okay, cool.
Right.
We've made a
Right.
good decision.
Mm-hmm.
And having a confidence that 6 months from now we're going to be better because what can we do this week about being better then? We're talking
Right.
about that with our team, and we're not just business.
Mhm.
We're very, hey man, we're all in this together. If
Right.
something's off in any part, we want to work together to get it corrected so we can all move forward,
Mhm.
and I don't know, that weekly meeting and just being a little more in tune with our team has given us a better perspective of, like I said, it's just those daily decisions. You're not doing something with all business in mind. It
Right.
might be, we may make a decision based on this team member and this team member and this team member. Well, that call may be better for this guy because it's X time a day
Yeah.
or X time a call. And
Yeah.
so yeah, there's just so much to it. But having more of those pieces gives you a bigger picture of making the right decision.
Yeah.
More information.
Mm-hmm. How has that impacted turnover? Are you not seeing much turnover now as a result, or you still have a little bit of it, or do you seem like you guys have a pretty solid team? Everyone's seems to be pretty happy.
Well, I would like to think that our team members are very, very happy.
Yeah.
With the second acquisition, it was so interesting how much more different our companies ran. So like with the first acquisition,
Right.
it was very kind of parallel, and so that
Yeah.
was very, very helpful. Whereas the second acquisition was less so, right? So um, uh, we haven't had much turnover, but just trying to incorporate those two cultures together was a little bit different for us, which is why I felt like this past expo that we just had was so important, because you guys were so focused on the cultural aspect of it
Yeah.
that was so important to us. So we took all that, we're taking all that like back now to our team, and we were actually able to bring a couple of our team leaders to that expo, which made a huge difference for us too, because it's
Very
not
cool.
just two crazy owners coming back with all these weird ideas. We're hoping they're going to forget about them in a couple weeks, right? But
Yeah.
we took our leaders with us and said, okay, let's do this together, right? And so I think for us, it's a constant ongoing process.
Yeah.
Whereas we're hoping that, as we kind of try to wait on the dust to settle a little bit, because it's only since July when we made that second acquisition,
Sure.
it's been a little bit of a slower burn, but we're still committed to making that culture work. And that's why I think this last expo was so important for us specifically,
Good.
because we do want to continue on. We don't want to make any kind of mistakes with personnel and things like that you
Yeah.
see. It's so easy to happen with acquisitions, right? So we're trying
Right.
to come in and
It helped us focus on defining who we are and what our culture was first.
Yeah.
And if we were losing someone because they didn't want to be a part of that, we had to be okay with it.
Mhm.
For sure.
You know, as long as we had our definition of what our perfect core values are and our core concepts, like Brandon mentioned on stage, those were phenomenal. 10 core concepts. It was beautiful. But we're starting to define it as our air care way. So we're trying to define our way so all our company knows that is or is not what we stand for or how we do it. And honestly, there are people that want to be a part of it, and the wrong ones won't. And we had one of those that lasted maybe a month with the new acquisition.
Sure.
He was very much expecting more of the same, and we were very much not that. And it wasn't going to click. So
right.
But at least it wasn't 6 months of waiting to find that out.
For sure. No, and you brought up a good point. I should have asked the question first before turnover. Is you made the second acquisition, and that invites a whole boatload of you don't know what to expect, right? So let's first
and
go
15
ahead.
months later.
Yeah. You guys didn't wait around.
No, we didn't. Well, I had to be honest. I wanted to wait. Like I said, he's building a parachute on the way down. I'm trying to figure out what the parachute's made out of. But anyway, so again, the belief in him. I have a belief in him, and obviously I have, faith in what we're doing here. But I'm very cautious when it comes to that stuff, and he's very much like, let's just roll the dice. So
educated guesses, man.
It's a good combo though, right? No one goes too far. No one goes too far, right?
We try to keep each other in check, but sometimes that works better than others. But so it was an interesting the second time because of how differently we were. Like with the first company, like I said, there were a lot of parallels, whereas I feel like the second acquisition was less so.
And even with that, we went to the service line. I mean, a lot happened with that first acquisition, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So the service line happened as we were doing the acquisition.
But at least we had that in place for the second one.
Yeah.
Right.
So, the second acquisition, like I said, we're still kind of waiting on more stuff to settle with that. But we had a company that was in business for 40 years, and a lot of their personnel had been with them
40 years.
30 years. Well, that one that
long time.
Like 30 years.
So the actual team members.
The team members were there for a really long time.
The one that had been there the least amount of time was a lady in the office that was part-time. But other than that, 6.5 years, 10 years, 12 years, 30 years.
Wow. 30 years.
So and they had very much kind of settled in with their ways after 40 years, right?
Well,
so
sure.
They didn't have they did have a computer system, but it wasn't utilized, I don't think, to its fullest capability. So it's been a less
not a lot of symmetry.
There wasn't a lot of symmetry. There wasn't a lot of symmetry. Is the best way to say that. But I think that's helped us understand a little bit more about what's important to us with that, right? And so instead of trying to be frustrated by that, which I think is the initial reaction, obviously, we've tried to kind of take that and decide, okay, well, it isn't this now, but this is where we want it to be, and these are the opportunities that it presents, and trying to take that and kind of run with it. And so that's where we see the second one going, is the opportunity that it presents. I don't think, based on the research that we've done after 40 years that they were in business, they only had 250 club members maybe. So what a great opportunity that is to open up the books and find out who needs a club membership, right? So even just all kind of back to the basics with their clientele.
I was going to say, what's their customer base look like? How many phone numbers and addresses did you have?
Even was that base accurate? Because there was so much just who's calling today. It was phenomenal, and how much was actually on paper compared to actually in the computer system. So
what system were they using? Was it just to have like an Excel spreadsheet with everything, or do they have a CRM of any kind? Or?
No, they didn't. Something called ServCom. I'm not really sure. It looks like a DOS system, maybe. I'm not.
We know Service Line was awesome at helping with that.
Yeah.
They were good. That was my next question.
Now, I guess you mentioned club memberships, and that's been, by the way, we mentioned it to begin with, and you mentioned it with Jones or with that company. But the biggest thing now is that has always been a big thing for us. So let's talk about that a little bit, because we're very passionate about club memberships.
Sure.
Like, and culture-wise, everybody in this company knows that everything's better with a club.
Okay. That's good. Yeah.
For everybody. When we had been doing our thing forever, when we were doing about one, we still had about 350 clubs. Okay. That was how many we had. The new company had a couple hundred also. So then we had about 500 or 600 total with the first acquisition. By the end of that year, we had breached 1,000.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So now the latest count we had was, 10 months later, we're like scratching the door of 1,800.
Wow. That's grown quickly.
Every month has been an adding to it. Which has been phenomenal. So that's one of our biggest prides, is that everybody is, on board with that and growing those clubs. Yeah.
We really do try to push the club memberships.
Yeah, big time.
Talk about what are the different features of your benefit? What do you guys offer? How does it differentiate itself from other clubs that maybe other companies are offering in the Charlotte area?
Well, ours are very reasonably priced in comparison to a lot of people whenever we do whenever we call around to kind of do comparison shopping. But I mean, I think other than the discounts, we have a reduced service fee and all that's pretty standard. But what we started doing is we started adding a 5-year warranty, parts and labor warranty.
Oh wow!
With our club membership.
Good.
So if you have a part that's replaced, as long as you have that club membership, we're going to offer a 5-year parts and labor warranty on that.
On repairs, yeah.
So without it, obviously, it comes with the standard 2-year parts and labor. But ours are really very affordable compared to a lot of people in our areas. I mean, we're lower, but not too low to where it's not unreasonably low either.
Yeah, I know some of our SGI people, it varies across the board. Some people are just per house. This is the monthly, but we do the first system's $12.95 a month. But if you have a second, third, fourth system, it's $9 for each additional. So it could be $21.95 for 2 systems. $260 a year. It could be $29.95 or $30.95 for 3 systems. So we do price it per system. So we are low, but that's only for 1 system. With 2 and 3 systems, some people are just $18 a house. Yeah. Well, maybe 1, 2, or 5 systems to that house. So that's what we've done for a long time, and that's what's worked for us. Sure. I haven't jumped up on that because we've had our successful growth. So I'm like, I'm cool. So far so good. We do have a discounted service fee, and we do 20% discount on repairs, not 15.
Okay. So
those are some details about it. Just the 2 visits, you don't have a bunch of levels, gold, platinum, silver. We don't do that.
No, that's all right. I think
that was mainly my idea. I don't want to track it that way.
I was going to say, that's what I've heard it can be a headache, right? So, no, I don't blame you. I think most people just do the one nowadays. Now, are they all sold monthly, or will you sell some annually as well?
We do both. Okay. We started off as annually. Then we started the monthly, I think, as soon as we can start tracking that and processing it. But even to date, what we found is, like right now, out of all our monthly, that's right at 30 to 35% of our total memberships. And that number's growing. So more people are going monthly than annual. But I mean, honestly, we have customers that prefer annual. We have customers that prefer monthly. So we keep offering both until that's not a thing anymore.
Sure. Are now on the annual ones, do you just hit the credit card at the 12-month anniversary, or is that an outbound call, or it's sold on the next tune-up? How do you handle re-upping those?
It would be both. So we would either we would either make the phone call. We'd either make the phone call and collect for the membership at that time, and then schedule their visit, or we could schedule the visit and collect at the time. So
and communicate with the technicians if it's going to expire at a certain time, if this is the last visit, or if it's the first one, and all that communication is done pretty well and tracked pretty well, so everybody's on the same page, and not a lot is expiring without somebody really knowing about it.
I'm glad. Yeah, I wanted to ask about the process of which you educate the homeowner on the club membership. So I'm guessing
Every phone call.
I was going to
Every
say the phone call comes in. Are they asking the question, "Are you a club member?" And then the ladies answering the phones. They know to have a little. They have some scripting to talk about that. The club
Absolutely.
membership. Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. Okay, and then you said dispatch to the technicians. They know when those opportunities. Hey, we need them to re-up. So that's another touch point. When do the technicians talk about the club membership? Is it only at the end, or is that kind of in the beginning? Like, is it brought up throughout? What's that?
Yeah, it's throughout.
Yeah.
It's never a mystery. If they're not a club member, it could be, and then we've done that with some of our practice, and different technicians handle it differently. But it could be in the beginning conversation of, have you had any regular maintenance done? And you could be mentioning it then, and then going over the details and offering it when over options of repairs, right? Of what the actual pricing is and the price with or without it and the benefits of it that way, incorporating it into your must, should, and could,
Yeah.
But, it could be, it could be talking about the club membership for the first 15 minutes at the door. I mean, it really depends.
Sure. Is it
There's no
always?
wrong time.
What's that?
There's no wrong time.
There you go, for sure. It's just make sure you do it. Is it always included? Like if you do a must, should, could, is it always in every option that you present to a homeowner, or is it only like the last two? Or what's your approach in building options with the club membership?
If they're not an existing club member, most of our guys are probably going to build it in, or at least talk to them about it to say, hey, do you want it priced with or with? Do you want it paid full price, or do you want to see our club membership?
Yeah.
So they're usually really good about, converting. They convert. So, and we do the discounts right away. But we're also very aware if we have a problem on, say, people are signing up just to cancel. Right. It's still a rarity. It is.
Okay. That's good.
We may get 2 or 3 of those people a year. It's really not, it really hasn't been a problem. You're always going to have people that decide that they want to do that. And that's just, that just for us, it just reiterates, okay, well, that's fine. We don't need you as a customer then, you know what I mean? Or we're going to be very careful about having you as a customer if that's the game that you want to play. So then we just don't make them eligible for the monthly membership anymore.
And it's paying enough attention to know, okay, not one technician has 10 of these a week.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very rarity across the board. So we don't have any we look for any kind of red flags of where do we need to train or have different conversations or role play something a little different.
Sure.
Yeah. So we're very aware of that.
Now, I'm assuming techs are spiffed off of club sales, right? And they're spiffed off flip leads, correct?
Absolutely.
Is there like an age barrier you put on a system where you're like, hey, if it's 12 years old, we really want you to offer, or no, you're not, you don't believe in it?
No.
Okay.
No, we don't. We're very be objective, give the homeowner all the facts, let them decide, give them good options. We don't want to put a number on it because, I've had a customer replace one just because their existing stuff wasn't in warranty anymore.
Okay.
Nothing wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
Or they just didn't like the bills, or, we find out you do have a bunch of issues and they don't want to waste it into the old one. So there's all these reasons, but we like to look at it as being, that would almost ask like, when should we screen a human for cancer?
Mm-hmm.
After a certain age? Or if you're going to go to the doctor, do you want the doctor to do a full physical and then all the facts so you can make the decisions you need to make?
Right.
That's how we look at it. It's just be thorough on every call, go over all the options with the customer, and let the customer tell you what they want you to do.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a lot of that's coming out and just having your people trained well enough to ask questions of the homeowner and go explain to them it's out of warranty. Explain to them that there are more energy efficient. Not that you're pushing it, but you're at least educating them, right? That seems to be a big part of it.
Yep, educate.
That's great. That's great.
Even making sure that the homeowner's educated. I don't want our guys to just go up and say, your widget's broken, it'll be $400, right? No, don't just do that, right? Just explain to them why that's important, why they should make that investment, maybe that $300 or $400 widget's going to save them $1,500 later, or prevent,
Or it could have been prevented by
yeah.
doing this, or you wouldn't even had this $400 repair.
Right.
So we always want to make sure that they're educating the homeowner. I don't want I don't want us to have left and the homeowner really has no idea what the heck they just paid for, right? So you definitely don't want that. So.
Sure. Very interesting. Okay. Well, see, you guys were worried. You said we'd talk an hour, and how can we talk an hour? And here we are. We're knocking on an hour. So I do want to ask a few more questions before I let you guys on your way. The business is growing. You 2 acquisitions. I'm sure that's you're getting additional phone calls from that. What have you done with your marketing lately as you want to continue to grow? I mean, do you just want to keep acquiring businesses? Or are you dedicating more of a certain percentage of revenue towards advertising funds, or what do how are you considering growing the business from this point forward?
All of that.
James actually has a 7-year plan that he has, which includes the acquisition of another trade, which I'm still.
I don't know what year that is.
I don't know about that yet. I'm still trying to absorb my feelings and how I feel about these last 2. So we put a firm hold on that for the moment until I can kind of figure out where the dust is settled from this latest one.
Yes.
Sure. But we do, we are still actively advertising on.
We have hooked up with Redesign, and they have been absolutely phenomenal for us. They've been phenomenal. They helped us with the websites. They helped us with the acquisition of looking at all of when we originally signed up with them last year. They looked at both the websites, our old one and the new one we acquired, and they said, hey, you just need to start with this, and we did it. And they've been phenomenal through all of this too.
Mm-hmm.
So they're been easy to work with, and we're working with them on our pay-per-click and local service ads too. So other than the acquisition, we are consistent with them. And that's helped us with just new clients in general. So that's been a part also for sure.
Okay.
But we're just getting started with it. We're still learning that too. We're very much, commit to it, then see what happens. I will not wait until it's a clear picture before we try,
Sure.
Which is hard, but I would be more worried about never trying than seeing what happens. Okay.
Sure.
I would much rather just try and then learn from it and do the next one better and the next one better.
Right.
Whereas I would just like to be comfortable in our own little box, but he consistently
I'm like that too.
The comfort zone, and so.
But it's a mix of all that. It's a mix of all that, So we're working on business more now, or we wouldn't been able to before. So now we can focus on those things. We're actually getting the organic growth now from advertising and marketing. But the acquisition can always be a part of that to be able to acquire good teammates, good team members and quality people that way too. And the structure that comes with that, so there's so many pros and cons to it, but there's a lot of pros.
Is it pretty much then your marketing's pay-per-click and SEO? Is that the main channels? Yeah. Okay. Very good. Gotta mention the new building you guys just bought, or you just moved into it, rather, a new space.
Yeah, we didn't have time to. I'll hit that real quick. Because why not? We were leasing, and then with this new acquisition, they already had a space too. But it was about 25 minutes apart. It's all in the same market, okay, but just kind of different sides of the city. But when we made the acquisition and we were like, okay, we didn't know if we're going to be working out of these 2 locations for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months.
Right.
But it was because we'd never done that before. So it got to the point where it's like, the sooner the better. So we kind of knew that week 4, week 5, week 6 that we need to get under the same roof.
Yeah.
And so we searched and we found a good in-between spot, a good, we can grow into place. A commitment that we had to make, but it felt like the right thing to do and something we can grow into. And it was 98% perfect for what we needed. That's the best way to say it, so and then so that was, that last acquisition was near the end of July. July 17th. And then this space, we got the keys for it on September 1. And then we're moving into it the second week of September.
We stay pretty big.
I just said you guys got a lot going on. Yeah, it is not.
and
not
it's
been a
by
quiet couple
no
years.
means to say it was all perfectly
No,
in
no.
plan,
No,
but
there's
but
no
we're
such.
cool with knowing where we are so we can course correct and
Yeah.
And
as
that,
fast as possible.
and I'll be honest, I think having SGI and all the people that are there to lean on, I know that having known what people were saying about acquisitions probably before we made the acquisitions, maybe we should listen a little harder. But like I said, James is very, very set on certain things. So I will say that, you know, we didn't wait on a lot of things I think that SGI encourages, but it was really good to fall back on them for the advice because we had already made that leap in some of those instances,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah, sure.
it was too late to listen to that. But having them there to say, okay, well, since you are here, this is what you need to do and this is what you need to focus on. That's been really important to us, and trying to make sure that we get, you know, a P&L to mirror what you guys have for the same size
Yes.
company that we're trying to mirror. It's been really important to have that so we can know
That's huge.
where we need to be, and if we're not
Right.
there, we need to strive for.
Right.
And I think that's made a really big difference. And the coaches there are so they
How can we
never
help?
they never
they're
make
awesome.
you feel dumb for
Yeah.
asking a question, right? Because you know what I appreciate so much about this organization, and that I was just telling the team members that we were able to bring, is that you have everybody in that expo from all different levels. You have the people who are doing $1 million a year, $60 million a year, and you have the people who are doing
$300,000 a year.
$400,000, $300,000 a year, and everybody's just there trying to be better.
Be the best
Right.
them.
And
Yeah.
nobody makes you feel like, oh, well, you guys aren't really doing enough for us to
Sure.
worry about, right? Everybody is always just trying to make you be the best you that you can be. And that's what I've always appreciated so much about this organization, is that they really do, you know, they really do want to help you. They have that, okay, well, you're not here and I see what you're trying to do, but maybe you should try to do it this way. If you don't want to do it that way, I'll try to find somebody who can help you do it that way, but I'm not really sure, you know. And so I've always really appreciated what they try to do
That's great.
for the members. So just
That's
shout
great
out
to
to
hear.
organization.
Oh, thank you. We try to call it SGI family for a reason. Hopefully there's always someone you can pick up a phone and talk to and ask for advice or just to listen. Sometimes that's all that you need as well, right? So
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And it has been phenomenal ever since we've been a part of it. And the funny thing is, the more we do it, the more comfort, knowledge, progress we get.
Sure. Well, I think there's growing, you know, and you grow into being more open and exposing yourself more and asking questions because you're more comfortable in your skin. I think that's a big part of it as well, you know. And as you guys have grown, you're obviously learning more and getting even better. Real quick, just one last, well, actually two last questions. How long do you think you can stay in that space? Like, do you have big growth goals? I know you said you had the other trade. I mean, do you have in your mind you want to hit a certain amount of revenue in the next 2 years or so?
We can do that out of here.
Okay, good.
I'm just putting the budget together for next year, but it looks like we should be doing 3.5 to 4 preliminarily. You know, just looking at it. But I was literally working on it this morning. But
That's good.
You know, we have the space here to, you know, run 4 install crews, do 7 to 10 million. You know, we can grow out of here for sure. We have build out we need to do. It's a whole bunch of warehouse, not enough office, you know, so there's a lot of things that we still have to do.
Yeah.
It's by no means the perfect office space yet.
Sure.
But we have the floor space to make it happen. Like, we're training in our warehouse right now. We don't have a meeting room.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
you just gotta make it work.
We're just lucky the weather works with us right now because it's not a 90-degree warehouse.
Right,
so
right.
We can have a meeting in the morning and we're still in good shape.
Sure.
So, you know, it may be spring before we do that. I have no idea. I just know we're good here and we're all under one roof. And that's what was a priority for us at the time.
That was definitely a priority, is making sure that we could all get under one roof. Because working at 2 locations was
disjointed. Yeah. I love to hear your budgeting and you guys are knowing what your numbers are. So I know you're going to do that revenue and know you're profitable. That's obviously all the revenue in the world doesn't matter if you can't keep any of it. All right. Last question. What advice would you have for other SGI members or just other contractors about acquisitions or about scaling your business or anything you just learned and went, boy, I wish I would have known this, or just do this, you know, to kind of help them in their journey?
Comes to mind.
try to work through your fears. I know that I was very fearful of that. But we've had a lot of that's come out of this, right? The people that we get to work with, and the homeowners that we get to help. It really, for us, I know that I had to kind of just overcome that fear of what it was going to take,
Yeah.
because even though it may seem daunting, a lot of paperwork and a lot of headaches, at the end of the day, it really is worth it. If all the numbers make sense, it really is worth it for you to do.
Yeah. I love it. Good stuff.
Yeah, get the numbers to make sense. So that's definitely the big thing, is make your numbers make sense. You know, they have to make sense. It's not a blind leap. You know, it is not a blind leap. You do your due diligence.
Yeah.
You find facts before you own the commitments.
Yeah.
Okay, find the facts out first. You know, you want to know how many calls. You want to know how many club members. You want to know how many maintenance clubs. You want to know how many installs. You want to know the dollars behind them.
Right.
You want to know warranties that they have been promised. You know, you want to know like that. So you got to know what you're committing to, and then understand that you don't know it all yet. So think of worst case scenario, and if you're okay with worst case scenario, it might be time to leave.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're not, then dig more, keep digging until you get clarity on is it right for me or not.
That's great. Good stuff. Tonya, James, thank you so much for your time today. Here we are at over an hour. Again, I told you it would go fast, so hopefully you feel the same. This was super insightful. I think people will have a lot to learn from your story. It's certainly a unique story with all the acquisitions you've done. We don't see that all the time, but so far it's been a good experience, it sounds like, for you guys. So wish you nothing but success, and I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully in Orlando and at the next expo in a few months.
We're hoping to bring team with us, you know.
All right.
Get the scoreboard people with us. So that's
that'd be exciting. That's the goal? Yeah. Oh, that's neat. That's great. Well, I'll be sure I'll have to interview them down there about how they're a crown champion. That would be neat. So
that's awesome.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, I love it. All right, guys. Thank you again for all your time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and keep kicking butt.
Bob, thanks.
You.
Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
That's James Brown and Tonya Alexander-Brown, owners of Air Care Heating and Cooling in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks for joining us. If you feel like you have a great story worth sharing that would also help other contractors, email me at bhouchin@yoursgi.com. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, if you're on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. If you're on your favorite podcast player, leave us a 5-star review. And please join us for future episodes. It's my promise to you that we will continue to interview successful contractors and other influential individuals in the residential contracting world. This is the Successful Contractor, powered by Success Group International.
Support for this podcast comes from Synchrony Financial. Allow homeowners to pay at a rate that fits their budget with a merchant fee that fits yours. Visit www.toolbox.mysynchrony.com for more information. The Successful Contractor Podcast is part of the Success Group International family. SGI is the largest member-owned best practices organization for independent residential services contractors. SGI provides its members a competitive edge through proven proprietary management tools and expertise, marketing programs, training, and group buying power, along with a highly active and eager to help membership. For more information about Success Group International, visit www.yoursgi.com.